Yet even still, throughout all of this, they struggled with their unbelief. They struggled in wavering in their faith. And did Jesus look at them and say, wow, you're struggling with your faith, you can't walk with me anymore? No, he loved them through it. And he also stewarded their hearts back to him and back to the Father. And that is what he is doing with us too. Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Melody and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. I post new videos every single Monday. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely be sure and subscribe. I would love to have you join the family. So in today's video, we are going to be diving on into this topic of believing bigger, of believing in God for more. And I'm going to be sharing with you 3 signs specifically that in this season, God is calling you to believe in him for more, to believe in him for something bigger. Now, as we dive on into these 3 signs, we're really going to be focusing on the book of Matthew. So every verse today is going to be coming from the book of Matthew because I personally feel like it is the best place for us to see what it looks like to walk out our faith. So we're going to be focusing on the disciples, these 12 men that were walking with Jesus and what it looked like for them to walk out their faith when they got to literally walk with the Lord. Okay, they got to see the miracles that Jesus performed. They got to see him turn water into wine. They got to see him cast out demons. And some of them even got to cast out demons as well on behalf of the Holy Spirit working through them. Yet even still, throughout all of this, they struggled with their unbelief. They struggled in wavering in their faith. And did Jesus look at them and say, wow, you're struggling with your faith, you can't walk with me anymore? No, he loved them through it. And he also stewarded their hearts back to him and back to the Father. And that is what he is doing with us too. So I hope this video can encourage you to know, first and foremost, God is not mad at you, sis. Okay, he truly is not. And secondly, to keep on pursuing him because he has amazing things in store for you. So as we go through these 3 signs, again, everything's going to be coming out of the book of Matthew. And then I also am going to be sharing a little bit of what this has looked like in my life because I don't talk about anything here on my channel that I have not personally walked through. And you might have noticed some of the changes here on my channel recently. And that's kind of where I have been believing in God for more. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So number 1 on our list today, the first sign that God is calling you to believe bigger is if you are more focused on your current circumstance than you are on God. And another way to put this is if you are wavering in your faith. Now, when it comes to wavering in your faith, the disciples knew this better than anyone. And I myself feel like I have been there too and go through that quite a bit. Like, let's be real. And it's so hard to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus sometimes when you are looking dead at a storm at like your eye level, you know? But that is what we are called to do as believers. We are called to point and fix our eyes on Jesus. And so when we're noticing that we are way more focused on our current circumstances, what's going wrong, what we need to change, how we need to change it, when we think it needs to change, more than believing and trusting and looking at God saying, God, you have this under control. God, I don't know how you're gonna work this thing together, but I know you are going to. God, I know you know my needs and I'm gonna trust you to meet them. That is where we know God is calling us to believe more. When our verbiage and the things that we're thinking and the things that are coming out of our mouth are more focused on what we see instead of who we know God is. Sign number 1. So there are 2 examples in Matthew that I think perfectly highlight this point. The first one comes from Matthew 14. Specifically, it is Matthew chapter 14, verses 27 through 31. And this is where Jesus is walking out on water. His disciples are in a boat. And essentially, Peter sees him and says, Jesus, if that's really you, let me come and walk on the water to you. And so Jesus is like, okay, bet, come. And so as Peter gets out of the boat onto the water, he starts walking, but then he sees everything around him. He sees the waves. He sees that I'm literally walking on water, and he gets scared. As that happens, he sinks into the water. Jesus grabs him. So Jesus then puts him on the boat and asks him this question: why do you doubt? And so this really highlights to us in a very physical form what it looks like when we start focusing on what's around us versus Jesus. We literally start to sink. And now the second example I have for you comes from Matthew chapter 17, and it is specifically Matthew chapter 17, verses 19 through 20. And here's a really interesting situation. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this Bible verse up on the screen for us to read it, and then I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more context behind it. And so the verse says, "Then the disciples approached Jesus privately and said, 'Why couldn't we drive it out?' And Jesus then says, because of your little faith, he told them, for truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will tell this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Now, the context I want to give you here is that the disciples privately went and asked Jesus, why couldn't we drive it out? And this is a demon that was living in a man at the time. And so the disciples tried their best to drive out this demon, but they couldn't. So then they went and got Jesus, and then Jesus ultimately drove this demon out of this man. So that is why the disciples were approaching him, asking Jesus, why couldn't we do this? This verse also highlights, like I've mentioned previously, that even though the disciples were literally walking with Jesus, they still struggled to have a mustard seed size faith. Mustard seed size? Yeah, mustard seed size. They still struggled with their faith, y'all. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So while we can be encouraged by this, we also want to make sure that we are not like them, okay? We need to make sure that we have faith in Jesus regardless of what we're experiencing, what we see right here. Just keep our eyes fixed above. And so that is going to be sign number 1. So sign number 2 on our list today that God is calling you to believe bigger is if he is giving you instructions that simply do not make sense. I feel like God is good for this, right? God is good for telling us to do something that we have no idea why he's calling us to do it. And then even more so that it doesn't meet or make logical sense. And that is really where we know God shines. Like, for instance, Noah and the ark. At that time, it had never rained, yet here is this man building this giant boat because God is gonna flood the earth. What? People thought he was crazy. And for the disciples, there is this verse in Matthew chapter 17. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up on the screen that really shows Jesus giving Peter specifically some crazy instructions, right? And like, I honestly didn't even know this happened. I feel like this is a verse that has never been preached on before, at least never a sermon that I've listened to. And to me, it just so beautifully and perfectly highlighted, like Peter didn't ask any questions. Peter just did what Jesus said, even though it was some wild stuff that Jesus was instructing him to do. So let's just go ahead and read this one together. Again, this is Matthew chapter 17. We'll go ahead and pop it up on the screen. Matthew chapter 17, verses 24 through 27. And it says, when they came to Capernaum, those who collected the temple tax approached Peter and said, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he said. When he went down to the house, Jesus spoke to him first. What do you think, Simon? From whom do earthly kings collect tariffs and taxes? From their sons or from strangers? From strangers, he said. Then the sons are free, Jesus told him, but so that we won't offend them, go to the sea, cast in a fish hook, and take the first fish that you catch. When you open its mouth, you'll find a coin. Take it and give it to them for me and you. Sis, did you even know this verse existed? Like I said, I had no idea. And as I read it, I'm trying to imagine Peter getting this information, getting these instructions from the Lord, and then going and acting on it. Like, hey, Peter, what are you doing? Oh, I'm gonna go fishing so I can catch a fish and then open the fish's mouth and get a coin out so I can go pay the temple tax. Like, what? So for me, this just shows that when God is calling us to believe bigger, he is gonna give us some instructions that simply do not make sense. And I know for myself personally, this has looked like changing things here on my channel. And so when I went full-time doing YouTube last year, it was last July, I started posting 2 videos a week, which was a blessing. My channel grew exponentially. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Hey sisters, hey my good bros, which noted, someone actually told me that there are quite a few men that watch my videos and that they don't like being called a sis. So I'm gonna work on it. It's just kind of built into my lingo, but I digress. As I am believing in God for more, and when I say more, honestly, it's not more success, it's not more money, it is more peace. I am believing in God for more calmness in my heart. I'm believing in God for more of his joy. And as I'm doing that, I am doing something that seems counterproductive. I'm gonna be posting less here on my YouTube channel. So I'm going down to 1 new video a week. And this not only just gives me more breathing room, it gives me more margin, it also helps me make sure that what I'm putting up here on my channel is done well. It is done with love, it is done with thought, it is done with intention, and I just need more time to do that. So again, it goes back to this concept of God giving you instructions that don't logically make sense. And for me, I don't have a problem doing what the Lord is calling me to do here because I know God is going to provide. The only reason I would continue to post 2 videos a week on my channel when I feel like God is calling me not to do that is because I want to make sure that I'm provided for. I want to make sure that my channel doesn't go down, my views don't go down, that my AdSense money, like, let's be real, doesn't go down. But I'm believing that God is calling me to do this for a reason, and he also is going to provide in that. This is an opportunity for me to believe in him more, to believe in him bigger. And I'm excited to have a testimony on the other side of this transition for you. Like, let's check in at the end of the year and see what the Lord has done with my yes in this area. So that is going to be sign number 2. Now let's hop into our third and final sign. So number 3 on our list today, the third and final sign that God is calling you to believe bigger in this season is if you are being challenged to be more Christ-like in areas that you struggle in. So if you guys missed my video where I talked about the fruits of the Spirit, there are 9 fruits of the Spirit and basically 9 ways that as we enter into a relationship with Jesus Christ that we start to change. Now some of these are going to be ways that we continuously grow in. Some of them we might master more than others. So definitely encourage you to check that video out. But when I talk about Christ-likeness, it basically means that God is calling us to grow in some of these fruits of the Spirit. And so when you're experiencing one of those areas that you know you need to grow more in, and all of a sudden you're getting circumstance and situation after situation where you have the opportunity to grow this muscle that currently is kind of weak, that is a sign that the Lord is calling you to believe in him for more. It is only by tapping into his power that you're going to be able to tap into that Christ-likeness to begin with anyway. So the verse I have for you here comes out of the book of Matthew, of course. It is Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 22. So let's go ahead and pop it up on the screen and read it together. So the verse says, "Then Peter approached him and asked, 'Lord, how many times must I forgive my brother or sister who sin against me? As many as 7 times?' 'I tell you, not as many as 7, Jesus replied, 'but 70 times 7. What really stands out to me here is that Jesus is calling Peter, ultimately calling his disciples, and then ultimately calling us to forgive, in this specific circumstance, an unlimited amount of times. And for us to actually forgive this unlimited amount of times, we have to first think it is possible for us to do that. We have to believe bigger on what is even possible. And that is what God is calling Peter, the disciples, and ultimately us to do in this moment. And beyond that, this applies to every fruit of the Spirit. Every area where we think we can't be more loving than we are already being, be more loving. I can't be more gentle than I'm already being, be more gentle. I can't exercise more patience than I'm already exercising. Allow the Holy Spirit to work through you and let that Christ-likeness shine. That is really what Jesus is highlighting in this verse. And now for me in particular, when it comes to the fruits of the Spirit, like I mentioned in my previous video, I am currently growing, in a lot of areas, but specifically meekness. And so this has looked like being aware of the power that I have and making sure that my power is being thwarted. I have a hard time with this word. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up on the screen right here. But basically making sure that humility is taking control of my power. And when that happens, that is when God gets the glory. When that doesn't happen, that's when I try to make sure I get the glory, which is what we don't want. And so this has definitely been a growing process. This is something that I feel like applies to my family life, being aware of the power I have in my tongue, but also here in this sphere of work, knowing that I do have some sort of influence and making sure that I am pointing people to Jesus first and foremost, not to this affiliate link, not to buy this cute little set, to Jesus, the one thing that is actually going to sustain them here in this life, not the cute set, even though the cute set is really comfortable and makes me feel good and probably makes you feel good, but ultimately our hearts need Jesus, okay? Our hearts need Jesus. So that is going to be it for this sign. Again, sign number 3, that God is calling you to believe in him for more. All right, guys, that is going to be it for me. These are 3 signs that God is calling you to believe bigger. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And now, of course, it is your turn. So in the comments below, I would love to know, what is one area in your life that you know in your heart of hearts you could believe bigger in God in that area? Drop it in the comments. I'm gonna be dropping mine as well. I definitely encourage you to take a scroll through. You never know who could be encouraged by you just being vulnerable and sharing, and knowing that you too are believing in God in that specific area that they might be. So again, definitely take a second, drop your response, take a scroll on through. I look forward to it. And as always, I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.